Welcome to the Silicon Slopes Conversations. This week we're here with Morgan Williams, who's the CEO of Blendyd. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Thanks for taking the time. And thank you everyone for joining us today. A lot of folks have heard of Blendyd, but for those that haven't, tell us about it. Where did the idea come from, and what did this company do?
Yeah, so I'll start with what is, well, first, hello everyone. It's so great to see everyone. Hi. Second, as far as what does Blendyd do? So Blendyd is really a technology firm that's looking to revolutionize the trucking industry with technology. Right now, we're hyper-focused on one of the industry's highest priority issues, which is driver recruitment. Trucking is an industry that heavily relies on talent, and if we can't get our recruitment practices and processes to be more efficient, I don't know where we're going to be. And so Blendyd really plays in this space between how do we find drivers and how do we get them in seat more quickly. And so if I were to give you our quick one-liner, Blendyd brings high-tech, mobile-first, automated solutions to low-tech recruitment in the trucking industry. I could go into kind of how it started. It's kind of an interesting story. Blendyd was actually the brainchild of my late twin brother, Cameron Williams. Cameron was here in Utah. He was at Domo Goldman Sachs. He started a company actually called Everwoke, and Everwoke was playing in the SaaS logistics automation space. When he passed away, I actually became CEO of that company, where I leveraged my capacities, my abilities as a strategist to really dig into what's going to happen next with this company, and ultimately decided to pivot into now what is known as Blendyd, focusing really on the trucking industry. And a lot of people ask me why Blendyd. We don't get it. Blendyd, what does that have to do with trucking? And fair, so I hear it. And I would say two things. One, there's a deeply personal reason, and then a very real technical reason. One of Blendyd's real value propositions is this idea of integration. And so as we think about bringing technology to an industry that's not necessarily known for its technological advancements, we really thought hard about how do we bring technology and make sure it could be implemented quickly. And in order to do that, we really looked at, well, can we create something that integrates with trucking companies' existing tech stacks? And so that's one of our big value propositions, the integrations that we're creating. Coupled with the very personal reason, as I mentioned, Blendyd is so much of my brother's vision that I am now executing on. And we always said his visionary tech genius coupled with my strategist mind can make the best company in the world. So we're blending these two things together to bring what's known as Blendyd Studios.
I love it. It's always nice when the name makes sense. Very cool. Knowing I was doing this today, I drove down from Holiday, Utah, and I counted the trucks semi-accurately, semis that I passed, not coming the other way, and it was 60. Which is just a small segment of I-15. So it's a massive industry, right?
Massive.
And everything that we're wearing, eating, everything probably showed up on a truck at some point, right?
Yeah, so 72% of everything we buy is moved by a truck. I don't know if we realize that magnitude. And trucking is a $875 billion industry. So when we say massive, I mean massive.
Yeah. And over the years, I've seen, because sometimes I do fantasize about being a truck driver, right? Like, you get to see America. You get to have interesting conversations at the truck stop.
Well, if you want to get hired, holler at me.
Okay. There's been many a days where I've left this office and been like, man, I wish I could go for 3 days as a truck driver. But they all oftentimes have magnetic signs on the back of their trailer, we're hiring. I've seen some that have written in the dust, we are hiring. That is as organic as it gets. And they, banners on the side and all of this. But it seems like whether it's a bear market or bull market, they're oftentimes hiring. And so ever since being a kid, looking at that, it's like, how are they perpetually hiring? Must be a solution that you guys are trying to solve for, right?
Yeah. So I don't know. So I don't know if you know this, but trucking actually employs nearly 6% of the nation overall. And I think often when we think about trucking, we think about owner-operators, the person who owns the truck, drives the truck. But actually, over 60% of the industry are actually employees of carriers. And so when we talk about hiring, the magnitude of what that means. Over 3 million people, 3.5 million people are being employed by this industry, and there's tremendous churn. So it's not just hire and keep it moving, but it's constant hiring that needs to happen. And we're not doing this efficiently. I mean, I've even talked to carriers who are still using fax machines to qualify leads. It takes weeks to decide, to figure out if someone even interested in a role. But every day that truck is sitting on your lot, you're losing money. And we're not getting our skis, our purses, our hats, our water bottles. And so, yeah. So we're really digging in and trying to expedite this process.
And with what you guys are building, this would be applicable for like big carriers and then smaller ma and pas as well, or is there a specific entry point that you guys are looking for?
That's a great question. So I like to see the underdogs win. And so what I will say about technology overall in the trucking industry, what we're seeing is the big players, the huge carriers, the ones we all think about when we're driving down I-15 or otherwise. They are the ones who are really at the advantage of these technological advancements. But small to mid-sized carriers, so fleets with under 500 trucks, they're losing at this game. However, they make up 97% of the overall market. And so for me, I'm watching this and thinking, well, why? What's the barrier here? And really what it comes down to is affordability. And so how do we create a solution that's not just effective and efficient, but then also affordable so that the small and mid-sized carriers, which are often the ones that you want to work for, you get the culture, you get the care, you get the training that you really need. How do we make sure that they're winning the competition when it comes to talent in the industry?
Yeah, because every small town, medium-sized town in America is going to have a trucking company, at least the ones that I've been to, and these are probably your targets there. And you mentioned, the trucks sitting out on the lot. The margins are pretty thin in trucking. And if you've got 2 or 3 trucks that could be utilized, that's going to impact your business. So for these companies in this scenario, when you reach out and you're selling and developing the relationship, what does it look like? What are the questions that they ask? And how long does it take for them to kind of see the value in what you guys are doing?
Yeah, so the biggest concern, I'll say, is disruption. Is this going to disrupt my business? And that's why we've thought so hard about implementation. How do we make sure that, I think with any technology, so I'll tell a quick story. About 2 months ago, I became an iPhone user, which was a huge disruption. I know. I know. But this was a huge disruption for my life. As an Android user, I knew exactly how to screenshot. I knew all my apps were downloaded. And then I became an iPhone user. I don't even know how to mute my phone. But I take that experience and thinking about a company that is running routes and generating tremendous amount of revenue, and then we come in and say, hey, we have a product that's going to fix all your problems. Oh, but it might take you a few months to learn how to use it. That's not going to work. It's just not going to work. So all that to say, we've really thought hard about the concern around how will implementing this technology into my company disrupt what we're doing, and we counter that with, well, let's take a look at your tech stack. We're here to support you and implement this technology quicker than some of our competitors out there. So yeah.
And for the ones that's still using the fax machine, that's a little bit easier, right? You're just going to jump ahead 30 years.
Yeah.
And there's probably a fair amount of pen and paper still.
Yeah, there is.
So is it generational, right? If it's a 64-year-old proprietor versus a 28-year-old proprietor, how do you deal with the generational gap?
Well, I think it's ultimately a conversation about bottom line. And so I don't care if you're 64 or 28. It comes down to, what are you trying to achieve? And let us help you. Let us be a part of that solution. And so I mean, technology can be scary. It can. But I think, and actually I'll say this. So when I think about trucking, we often talk and technology, we often think about it from the aspect of technology is happening to trucking. And I'm new to all the things. I'm new to a lot of different things, but especially trucking. And being new to a field, what I've come to realize is I'm not trying to happen to you. I want to build for and with you. And so if I go into a company and they're like, technology's scary, no. I'm like, well, hold on now. What is it that you're trying to achieve? And how can we best help you do that? We're not trying to happen to trucking, we're happening with trucking. And really centering on that idea, I think, is more of an invitation for a conversation to build than than me coming down, knocking down the door saying you need this. So yeah.
Yeah. I'm usually not jealous of people that are selling something, whether it's software or a consumer product. But I am a little jealous because I think you're going to have some of the funnest conversations you'll ever have with this group of people.
Oh, truckers are a whole nother breed. I'm learning to talk trucking. I've gotten feedback that I'm prim and proper, and that's not necessarily the industry itself. But when I say I have met some characters, and as I learned the language of the industry, it has been eye-opening. And I don't know, I've enjoyed the conversations. I've enjoyed navigating all the different aspects of American fabric. Learned a few new curse words, but but all in light of saying, hey, I come from a different world. Like I said, I'm a strategist at heart, but my world married with your world can make a new world.
Very cool. Let's talk about that a little bit. Your old world, you've got a cool background. Tell us a little bit about that, and then I'll ask a question about how it applies to what you're currently doing.
Okay. So a little bit about me. I've navigated many different fields, everything from genomics. I'm actually a published genomics researcher, down to education. So most of my young adult career was actually spent in the world of education as a part of Teach for America. Some may have heard of Teach for America. But most of my career wasn't thinking about how do we maintain the status quo of education, but more so how do we reinvent education in order to meet the needs of the evolving society that's coming before us. And since I'll stay there, since that's where I spent most of my career. But this was another opportunity to be in a very traditional industry, which innovation was considered disruptive to the industry, but it was coming regardless. And what I actually enjoyed was I started out in education as a classroom teacher for a public school system. So I was ground floor, I was able to understand what was happening, what some of the issues were. And as technology was coming into my classroom, I also very much understood why and how it was disruptive to what we were trying to achieve. And so as I became a reinventor, innovator in an industry, I very much became clear you have to meet the industry where it's at, and and don't let the innovation happen to the industry, but allow the industry to inform the innovation and then bring it forward into the future. So yeah.
Cool. With all that you've done in your previous careers, and now what you're currently doing as the CEO, what are some parallels and some kind of eternal principles that apply to both?
Between education and now being a tech CEO? Well, I would say, so there's two values I live by. Thing one, I actually got this from my brother, Cameron. Dream big and then bigger than that. And so we go into fields each and every day. We're churning, we're grinding, and it's hard to dream beyond that moment. But when you have the opportunity to step out and envision a new reality and imagine what if, or what if we did this, or could this be possible, that is one of the most exciting, energizing exercises, from trucking to genomics to education that I've been able to do. And so for my team, that's something I really emphasize. We have to dream big and then bigger than that. If we're really gonna help guide the conversation into what the future could be. The second thing is do it better, but emphasis on do it. We have to iterate into the future. It's not we do one thing and we've created the future of something. No, we have to iterate into it. And so again, from education to genomics to trucking, keeping that iterative nature about things has been really meaningful and powerful.
Very cool. By living those two things, you'll probably accomplish a lot, right? Just those two simple things. You've mentioned new, first time CEO, right? Kind of first time in being the CEO in Utah, right? First time interacting with the trucking industry, learning the whole vernacular there. Obviously, you seem positive and upbeat, and you've got your mantras that you live by. But what are some challenges with being a first time, all of those things?
You don't know what you don't know. And so I'm navigating a space with folks that have been in the industry for years, decades in some cases. And I don't know what I don't know. Being new to Utah, to trucking, to tech, to all of it. But that naivete in some ways almost keeps me energized, and allows me to ask some of the simple questions that are sometimes the most meaningful. Oftentimes, why is one of the most powerful questions you could ask in a room. And because I'm new, I ask why a lot. I also ask how quite a bit. And all these questions are not just helping to drive me forward, but really getting those who have been in the industry for a while to take a moment and pause and do a little bit of that dreaming or challenge themselves as well. So, you said, what are the challenges? I'm so positive. Well, no, I think, it's just a steep learning curve. And I know we talk about entrepreneurship and there's the grind of doing the work, but when you're learning and doing the work every day, the days are very long and very hard, but we're learning and doing, and yeah.
So there's a lot of first-time entrepreneurs in the audience and a lot that will listen to this down the road. Over the hundreds of these that I've done, there's some that don't care about mentorship. There's some that I'm going to do it all on my own. There's some that are like heavy on mentorship. Like, I don't know the answer to this. Let me make a call real quick. Where do you land on that?
heavy on the mentorship, and I'll tell you why. So first, I feel like what I'm building is a dream that's bigger than just me. And when you are building something bigger than just you, I think you demonstrate that by bringing other people into your orbit to make sure that that can be true. Second, I don't know what I don't know. I'm a very discerning person, but I am willing to hear and listen to the opinions and advice of many. And I think that diversity of perspective really helps me to develop a holistic understanding of the problem or solution, so that when I'm presenting something, it's not done with, here's the one-sided, very narrow version of this thing, but here's how we can, because it's offered a lot of different perspectives, this is how we could actually get this thing done. Also, coming from the world of education, I very much have seen how when you try to implement a solution on a group of people, so I think about students most often being in education, it's like, oh, we need to reform this, we're going to do this, and then students just have to accept whatever has happened to them. It doesn't go very well. And so, and most solutions require the alignment and collaboration of many different people across many different fields. And if you don't have that perspective, to me, I feel like I would be setting myself up to fail. And yeah, I don't know if you could tell, but I'm a bit of an achiever.
It's great, because with your background, there's the inclusiveness of, for publishing that genomics, that required dozens and thousands of scientists for years before publishing their stuff and not keeping it a secret, yeah. Right? You're learning on that, you're publishing. And with entrepreneurship, I think your angle is better, being open and asking questions, and maybe the person giving the advice you think's a scallywag, but it might be good advice. I think it's a much better way to go through things as well. So you guys have kind of made your first bet on trucking. With your business model and what you guys are building on that platform, would there be, I'm thinking like buses or the half trucks that kind of go to the gas stations, right? There's a few more industries. Would this, what you guys are building, be applicable to them?
Absolutely. And that's actually what we're thinking about now. We have an upcoming opportunity, I'll just say that, where we're really getting the opportunity to work with municipalities, states, and federal governments to have the conversation about how can we support with workforce development and infrastructure, specifically in transportation. The conversation started with, trucking impacts all of these different entities, so how can we collaborate as ambassadors? But then I realized, well, beyond just trucking, we're really a platform that helps to streamline the hiring for talent that requires very specific credentials, licensing, background checks, things of that nature. And so as we've thought about that, to your point, we started to look at university systems who are hiring shuttle drivers, or cities who also are hiring bus drivers, snowplow drivers. And so when we think about driving talent where very specific credentials are required, we see a lot of opportunity to expand beyond trucking, for sure.
Very cool. We're going to open up to questions from the audience here in a minute or two, so get your courage up. Here in Utah, there's a personification of CEOs and leaders in tech, or pick your industry. You might not fit that mold directly. Talk about that.
Yeah, it's been interesting being different. One, I'm not from Utah. I'm not from many things. I'm a curly-haired Black woman from Chicago, which coming to Utah, I don't have many examples of what that looks like, or what success could look like. There's also not many statistics pointing to my success in this endeavor that I'm embarking on. But in spite of that, I feel like different has been accepted and been a superpower. And so I might sit in a room and often be the only. Actually, as I look around, I am once again the only. Oh, nope, I lied. But I'm one of the few. But that's okay. And I feel like it's been an invitation to get to know others, for others to get to know me, and really understand how to bring diverse perspectives into various conversations. And I think often when we talk about diversity, we talk a lot about reach. How many diverse candidates can we reach or bring into the fold? But I think about touch. It's more about how do we move from how many do we reach to how many do we actually touch. And what I will say is, coming to Utah, I've been touched by the level of mentorship, by support, championship that has really come my way. So, yeah.
Well, that's very good. All right, we're going to open it up for questions. Raise your hand if you've got a question for Morgan here.
Yeah, I'm curious if you have implemented an API into your technology for third parties?
Yes, we have. Which one are you? Anything?
Oh, like inventory, 3PL, tracking deliveries and things like that.
No, so we're specifically thinking through recruitment right now. So many of our integrations are more so integrations with email tools, scheduling tools, lead qualification tools, things of that nature.
Okay, very cool. Thanks.
Hey, so the other side of the employee problem that we're seeing a lot of is retention on employees. And obviously that's kind of the opposite of what you're looking at. What resources is Blendyd aiming to bring to companies to help with that other half of that equation?
Yeah. Well, so retention, we believe that first it starts with hiring the right candidate. And so what we see, particularly in trucking, is there's so many gaps. People are hiring the first people that they can find. And what we're trying to say is, hey, we can help you. We understand finding the right candidate can take more time, but we could actually help you streamline that process. And so, frankly, this is something that we're thinking through more and more. But as far as where we're starting, it is how do we help you get the right candidate in order to avoid that constant churn, or to maybe stop some of that churn that we see in the industry.
Up here in the front.
How many of the folks that you hire or help companies hire are new to the industry, like Garrett talked about fantasizing driving a truck for 3 or 5 days or whatever? How many are new hires and don't even have a CDL license?
Not many. So particularly because we really focus on small to mid-sized companies, and due to compliance reasons, often those companies aren't able to hire right out of CDL school. Most of their drivers require anywhere between 1 to 2 years of driving experience in order to be eligible to work for those companies. This isn't true. I mean, so some companies do have a bit more flexibility, but because that is the niche where we're really focusing on, I want to drive 3 or 5 times a week, and I'm brand new. Often are not desirable candidates for the companies we're working with.
All right, well, we'll figure out this.
But I can still help you, I promise.
Okay.
I know people.
I saw, was there a few more hands I saw?
Just wanted to ask you, who inspires you and why?
I have to go back to my brother. So my brother, he's a person who had a dream and a vision that has survived him. And to do that is so compelling. This was not my world. I did not have to do any of this. It wasn't my brother passed away and I feel like I have to go into this world. But what I saw was he created something that could be magical to a field, that could move a field forward. And he had inspired a group of people here in Utah through his empathy for humans, which allowed me to enter into an ecosystem where doors were open, seeds were planted, so I could move as quickly as I have. And I don't take that for granted. And that's no easy task. I talked about touch a little earlier. Most people, you talk to people, you see people out, but people don't often touch you. Cameron touched people. And as I think about my own leadership journey, I'm not just trying to be a cute face on a screen or be on TV or up here on stage. I genuinely want to touch people with the things that I'm doing. In my role, both as CEO, even as an example, I also spoke to, there's not many examples of, frankly, Black women in tech here in Utah. And I'm now sitting as an example of what that might look like. And I'm proud to be an example of that. And Cameron was an example of a Black man in tech. And his dream, his journey inspired so many, and including me, to believe that I could do this. And yeah.
Thanks for that talk. I have a family in the trucking industry, or grew up around many holiday tables with a lot of good trucker jokes. And you probably know a couple. I won't tell you what they are. But they talked about the industry a lot and how, how tough it was for these owners of trucking firms, to try to find how to get recruited, how to find jobs. So I think congratulations for doing what you're doing. I think everybody here, if you don't get a chance, find a friend or hitchhike and try to take a ride in a big truck. It's actually kind of a cool thing. I mean, it's big, huge, moving, so just put it on your bucket list, okay? So my question is about that. My question is about AI, artificial intelligence, that thing, all that. I think each one of us, I think Silicon Slopes is always having discussions about it. We're all chat GPT nerds without even knowing what that means a lot of times. So I don't know if you're seeing that play in your industry or anything that's coming to mind. You're sitting around a table with your peers or, anything you can enlighten us on or your thoughts.
Yeah. So when it comes to recruitment, do I see it a lot? No. Are we creating it into Blend? Are we blending it into Blendyd? Yes. So AI and machine learning are two aspects of technology that we really are looking to dive into. Right now, recruitment is very much based on your availability as a recruiter. And so if a trucker is up at 2 a.m. and they're excited about your position, they probably won't hear from you until at least 9 o'clock the next day. But when we think about competition, recruitment is a game of competition. It's often who can get to the candidate first and present them the most desirable package. And so AI, what it allows is for 24/7 communication with a potential applicant. Machine learning, as we think about scheduling applicants, how do we grow models in order to do that? And when I think about my relation to tech and trucking, right now I'm speaking from where the industry is at, but where I think about where the industry is going, who is hired, how they are hired, that is going to continue to evolve. And by us early on incorporating AI and machine learning models into our tech, we're positioning ourselves to actually learn and benefit or help the industry benefit off of what works as the face of trucking continues to evolve as well. So yes, very much conversations that we're very much thinking about.
So I know you're a person that likes strategy. I just want to ask a question. What is your long-term marketing strategy for acquiring the right candidates and getting the word out and break the stereotype on what it is to be a truck driver? Because when I think of a truck driver, I think of a middle-aged man with a long beard and going to hit you with some kind of a tool if you cut him off or something. So, I mean, how are you looking at long-term broadening, the acquisition for those candidates?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And frankly, that's something we're learning. We're still very much learning. So, and I say that because, to your point, I'm not a typical trucking person. And then to your point about middle-aged men dominating the trucking field, that is what we see. But as retirements continue to happen, as autonomous trucking continues to play out, as all these things continue to build, again, who is going to be a part of trucking is going to continuously evolve. And so by us incorporating AI, machine learning, through our data collection, we're actually starting to learn what's actually going to work in order to inspire, drive, motivate, and convert new faces into the industry. Do I know yet? No. Am I figuring it out? Every day.
Thank you. My name is Jacob. And by the way, just so you know, like, if you guys haven't driven a truck, like I'm in the Army, so I haven't this Army truck. Trust me, it's fun because nobody wants close to you. You are safe. You are so safe, right? So, but thank you for that. Quick question. You said that you're, new to the tech, new to the trucking business. There's a very deep learning curve, right? So what do you do to prepare you every day? Just like, I'm ready for meeting clients. I'm ready to, what do you do to learn? Like, it feels like it's a lot of things going on in this industry, in any industry. And a lot of us, like, entrepreneur, we maybe get into a new thing we don't even know. We maybe have an idea, but just tell us, how do you prepare yourself?
Yeah, I think that it's not so much, I know we talk about clients, but before someone becomes your client, they could be your partner in learning. And so I really took the approach of having the conversations with potential partners in learning to understand, what do you need? Let's just have a conversation. That's really how I evolved into Blendyd. So I came into this thinking I was going to build a trucking logistics automation company. That's what I thought. And so as I talked to industry leaders, we talked about that. But the thing that kept coming up was, and I need drivers. and I started listening to that. That became a trend. This is where the strategist in me comes into play. I'm asking one question, but you're giving me an answer that's pointing to, there's a solution you need even before I built that one. So how can I help you do that? And also, I am a person who believes strongly in learning. So as much as I am a CEO, I'm also a student, actually. At the University of Utah, they have an amazing program called the Master of Business Creation. Think about an accelerated, the rigor of an MBA married with an accelerator where you take your company, put it on steroids, and really figure out how to make things work. And we had a really interesting conversation recently about this idea of how to move somebody or bring into your ecosystem what are called design partners. People who are industry specific or role specific, who are coming into your orbit to help you design or think about the design of what you're building, and then moving that person from a design partner to a beta tester to a potential client. And having that process in mind, I rarely approach people like, hi, would you like to buy Blendyd? It's a great tool in technology. It's more, hi, my name is Morgan, and I'm trying to learn. And I feel like I could learn from you. And so taking that learning orientation has really helped me as I've thought through how to build and then grow this particular business.
Very cool. And you're able to stick around for those that didn't get their questions asked, right? This has been great fun. I think there's a few more prospective truck drivers in the audience now. A few might. I have hitchhiked with truckers on several occasions. I would recommend it. It is very fun. And for these Friday conversations that we do, 40, 45 a year, maybe 10% are like early stage companies like you. So it's always fun. So if you're listening to this or you're watching and you're in a position to help, reach out to Morgan, right?
Please.
Thank you so much for taking the time to join. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you.